marketer perspective and thinking about the areas of growth and innovation, for me, it probably comes down to a few areas. I would say one is around just the evolution of content in general and really just seeing the rise of video formats, different types of video format, maybe some interactive components, just trying different formats as the capabilities continue to advance, and the ability for marketers to do a range of video, potentially even without complex tools, and just making it super easy for them to get video out. I would say that's one. I say the second is around authenticity and really starting to see a greater emphasis on authentic voices, people who really know their customers, really have great insights about what they're looking for and do it from a really consistent basis. So I would just say authenticity and really knowing your customer and seeing that as a trend. And then AI, I really don't know what AI could be in 5 to 10 years, but thinking about just the tasks and the execution of getting campaigns out the door, reduction of those tasks, making the execution process easier, quicker, I think is probably just a general trend. And so as we all learn about what are the aspects of, call it, campaign strategy execution that can be done by AI, that is definitely a trend. And I would expect to see marketers and brands being able to get things done quicker and more efficiently by using AI. So I would say those are really kind of the 3 areas from a content perspective, authenticity perspective, and then lastly around AI.
I do think that the proliferation of AI tools is just really going to make us redefine what is the function of content marketing. Part of me wonders if the proliferation of those tools is going to make that true insight more rare or harder to find. I think there will be enough companies or content marketers who are really just using it to churn out a high volume of content that I think it's going to get a little bit harder for audiences to sift through all those piles of B2B content to find what they're looking for, like a diamond in the rough. People still want ideas that are going to help them see their industry and their business differently. So I think that B2B marketers who are able to think that way and who are committed to really learning in depth how their customers operate are just going to have an advantage. I think that content marketing teams might be a little bit more leaner and more efficient, but people who can bring those insights will be at the center of it. So this is maybe a more optimistic take, but I think that in B2B marketing, the most successful companies or marketing teams are going to be the ones who move away from treating content as a commodity and shift resources instead to making things that are more experiential, more relational. So like live events, again, if they're catered to the needs of the leaders within their B2B audience, events can become a marketplace of ideas, a spot that people can connect with leaders who are thinking really deeply about the future of their industries. They can learn from others who might have a novel approach or doing things a little bit differently. And so I think content marketers really can't leave that thing up to product marketers or event specialists. We have to be in that boat to help develop the content that is really the backbone of those events.
It's easier than ever to create content and put it out there using these tools. And I think the B2B companies and everyone in general, the ones who can use that and then also take it up a notch and add something new to the conversation to delight their customers or to inform their customers, educate them. There's going to be clear winners and losers on that front. I look at AI as consensus content, and there's a lot of that out there. And even before SEO, we've gone down that path a little bit as well, where you find a keyword and you write a piece of content to the best of your ability based on online research. And guess what? That's exactly what AI does. And all that content is AI is winning with AI overviews and everything else. We're seeing it already. And over the next 5 years, the companies that win are going to be doing less of that and more of the storytelling, more of the adding value to their customers.
That authenticity, being able to see real people, real brands, real voices, I think that will become, and I think I'm seeing that already with people elevating voices of people in their industry and sharing, whether it's use case playbooks or behind the scenes with so-and-so or how such and such company does X. I think we're going to see more of that type of content because that's what people are hungry for, is less listicle generic content, more, well, tell me, how did you do that? Walk me through that in reality.
I don't know if it happens very often, but sometimes you call a company like your wireless provider, and it's so hard to get a human nowadays to take your call or to give you service. What if that feeling coalesces into this new trend where people actually want to talk to somebody? in a B2B environment, you actually want to have a meeting with somebody. You want to go face to face and have lunch or go to a baseball game instead of doing it all digitally, because I think that'd be really interesting development. I'm not going to put any money on it that's how things are going to go. But I mean, that could happen. I think the danger is that when so many things become automated, how do you feel the authenticity of a communication that you're receiving from a prospective partner? How do you connect with it as a human? I like to connect with humans.
It does feel like the B2B world will start moving more towards the B2C world with things like hyper personalization, for example, and some of the big tech companies in the B2C businesses do that naturally and really personalize messages according to the target market. I think that'll start to happen in the B2B space, particularly with the sort of introduction of new technologies. So using technology itself in the B2B world, it will increase, I think, for sure. I mean, that's an easy one at the moment. It impacts, for example, we're already using technologies like databases like Salesforce and Marketo on the email side and Seismic on the content library side. Between those three big pieces of technology, you can create really wonderful outputs and you can really personalize your messages. So I think we're scratching the surface in asset management, but I think there's a lot more to go there. The other area where I think there'll be more work is in storytelling. Asset management typically is very data-led and very logical, but there's also a storytelling part to what we do when we go to the marketplace. The companies that we invest in, they all do interesting things to help the transition to a more sustainable economy, which is where Impacts invest, for example. And we invest in some companies that have got some great stories about how they clean water or how they clean air or how they can work in the green economy generally and what they can do with food production, etc. So there's some great stories to be told. And I think we forget that in asset management sometimes. So I think there'll be some more storytelling. I hope there'll be some more storytelling that happens in the coming years. And I think lastly, then it sort of leads me on to the greenwashing issue. There's quite a few companies that in the past have maybe overstated their case in terms of how they deal with the environment, for example. And they've not been as authentic as they could be, as they should have been. And I think that over time, that's going to start to get called out a bit more in the coming years.
I feel like this has been something that's been top of mind for a lot of marketers in recent years, but I just see it becoming more important in the future, is just humanizing your brand. I think a lot of B2B marketers have lost the fun of marketing. It's just become very corporate, very stale, and too focused on data points and trying to convince people with data, hey, you should use our product. I genuinely think that B2B marketing is going to become more like B2C marketing, and we're going to have to get a lot more creative and personalized with how we're reaching our audience, and personalized in the sense that we're not just saying, hey, Bamboo HR, come look at our software, and using that type of personalization, but really understanding the audience and understanding what is important to them, because that's how they're sold in the B2C world. I've never been in B2C. So for me, I'm always in awe with how well people are able to target their consumers with moment in time messaging, with the exact product that they could possibly want, and that they're persistent. They're not worried about shaking up their message every month or two. They're able to just keep sending the same type of content or advertisements to people until they purchase. I think I saw a stat somewhere that was like, it used to be like 7 interactions before people would start considering your brand. And now it's more like 15 to 20. So it's only getting more and more. You're only needing more and more exposure. And so I really think that the future is going to be a lot more heavily focused on how do we adopt B2C type marketing strategies into our existing B2B strategies.